I think it's probably fair to say for City fans, it has been a tough enough week with handing the title to Liverpool. But that said, there is still plenty to be excited and positive about with a treble still very much on the cards. There's also been 3 games since we last spoke on City Chat, so plenty for us to get through today. David, if it's okay, I'll come to you first as an avid City fan and unable, as I say, to defend the league title, but potential of a fantastic season remains, David.
Yeah, I don't really think that much has changed this last week. It's not a surprise that Liverpool won the title. It was on the cards it's been on the cards for months. So, in terms of what City have got to play for, it was always, when football resumed, was always the FA Cup and was always the Champions League. Obviously, the Carabao Cup's in the bag, and they've got a really good chance in both of those competitions now. The Champions League, I think, will be slightly more difficult with the format that it's going to take and how up in the air it is a bit at the moment. The FA Cup, okay, the draw has, there's 4 good teams left in it. That's what it is. But they're in the semi-final now, so there's a perfectly good chance. Win 2 games, they've got another trophy. So it's certainly not doom and gloom from where I'm sitting.
Agreed, Paul.
Yeah, I think so. I was watching Kevin De Bruyne's interview with Gary Lineker the other day, and he said, if we win the FA Cup and Champions League, it'll still be an unbelievable season. And and he's right. City have never won the Champions League before, and this is a great chance for them to do it. I know they haven't got Aguero, obviously, he might not be at his full peak fitness by the time that comes around. But this is a chance now for Pep to kind of rotate the team a little bit towards the end of the season, prioritise the FA Cup, and then go on to Champions League. So, as David says, it's not all doom and gloom. They've got a good chance to end the season with 3 major trophies.
I think we might mark this season out as the arrival of Phil Foden. There's things apart from silverware that we can actually tick off and say, well, that was a good thing to come out of that season. It's a bizarre season anyway. I agree with David. Liverpool, we were kind of resigned to that months ago, and fair play to them. We now need to see what we can gather from this season. And aside from the silverware, I'm looking for younger players to be given a chance. As soon as we get that Champions League qualification down, I think we might start seeing some of the younger lads getting more performance time. You're looking for Garcia, you're looking for Foden to really establish themselves as mainstays. So I'm looking for that type of thing aside from the silverware.
As Adam just said, David, congratulations to Liverpool, and in fairness, the title was out of sight, perhaps. So, congratulations to them. Just in terms of that rivalry, David, how big do you think that rivalry now is? And as well as Liverpool, I suppose, who else do you think will be in contention for next season's Premier League title?
The rivalry is an interesting one. I don't know. I'd have never, up until a couple of years ago, I would never have really counted Liverpool as a rival to City. They've always kind of had that rivalry with United. City and United have always had their rivalry. I've never really felt it between City and Liverpool. But I'm not going to lie, this season I got really bitter at times just about how good they've been, and I've never thought I'd be capable of that myself. So I suppose it's getting there, and I suppose for next season, I think City will be really pushing not for Liverpool not to be able to have back-to-back titles like City have done. City are the only team to have back-to-back titles in a decade, and that's a huge achievement. And so I think if Liverpool are going to do it again next season, City are going to make sure that they have to earn it. They're going to have to beat City along the way. And I think over the last couple of years, it really has, the rivalry between the two clubs has really ramped up. And then you look at the chasing pack, I think there's quite a bit of distance between City in second and those behind. But you look at the way Chelsea played against City the other night, and I think Chelsea under Lampard have got a real big opportunity now to kick on and push on as well. And I think the way the pandemic has kind of interrupted the season has possibly interrupted the flow of Leicester as well, because I was really impressed with Leicester before that. They've not quite come back as strong as they have. And a shout out to Wolves as well. I don't think Wolves are in a title running, but I think they're a hell of a good team at the minute, and I think they can only go. I think if they spend right and they improve in the right areas, they could go only one way.
Paul, the next game is, of course, against Liverpool. Should be an interesting one. Is there extra significance or extra importance to that game now?
I think so, yeah. Even though there's technically nothing riding on it, City pretty much guaranteed Champions League for next season. It's important to set down an early marker for City, if you like, for next season. I was watching an interview with Andrew Robertson the other day, and he said that their win in November over City really gave them the belief that they could go on and win the title. So I know it's next season, when you think about it, isn't actually that far away, is it? We're only a few weeks away from it. So they can put down an early marker by beating Liverpool. And, after winning a title, are Liverpool really going to be, up for it as much as they would have been before if they were going, if they were neck and neck? So, a win for City, even a kind of quite a big one, would be quite a bit of a morale boosting one for them. And, at the start of this game, there's going to be a guard of honour, which, City have, gracefully accepted that they will do. But that's going to hurt them, isn't it, City's players? You watch these, clapping these players out who've come and, they've beaten you hands down quite easily this season. That's going to fire people like De Bruyne up. He's not a guy who settles for second best. So I imagine that players like him, like David Silva, will really want to make an impression on Thursday and make sure that they beat Liverpool.
Adam, you're a stats man. All of us football fans love a good stat. I'm sure you've been following things very closely this season. In terms of this Manchester City-Liverpool rivalry we talk about, from a statistical point of view, how do you see things between the two teams?
So they're so closely matched in terms of the records they can achieve and have been achieving. I was looking before we recorded about what records they could beat of ours, and being the stats geek that I am, I'm like, right, well, if we beat them on Thursday, that might damage their chance of getting the most away wins in a season and things like that. Being the stats geek, that's the first thing I look at when I'm saying, right, what can we preserve? We talk about the title going, but let's keep my spreadsheet nice and tidy. Let's make sure they can't rip up that entire database. So again, credit to what they've done, but it'll just drive us on for next season, even if they do take those statistics and records off us, to go and get them back again or even beat them again next time. So I think there's still a lot to be riding on in terms of pride, not necessarily league standings. But I think, as Paul said, De Bruyne and Sterling aren't the type of players that give guard of honours out. We should be receiving them, and we need to. It'll be hurting, and it'll be driving them to retain it next year, or certainly get it back next year.
Both teams, Adam, setting the standard so high.
I think when we talk about rivalries, we're not necessarily the biggest rivalries, but we're certainly the most relevant rivalry at the moment. Without sounding too big-headed, there's not many teams that are touching us as it stands in terms of that level of consistency. So I think the two heavyweights of our division now are Liverpool and City, and they're just going to keep pushing each other up to raise that bar each year.
Just want to talk to you about who your standout performers have been, who we consider your top 3 standout performers for City since we've returned, so for the month of June. I'll come to yourself first, David, no pressure, but if you could give me your top 3 standout City performers.
I think this has been really hard because they've come back really well. Chelsea game aside, they've come back really well. You can't look past De Bruyne as somebody who had been setting the Premier League on fire again since it's come back. I think Riyad Mahrez has come back really well. I think he's been playing really well in this behind closed doors portion of the season. But I can't help but keep coming back to Phil Foden. I think Phil Foden has really settled into that first team. And, I mean, it's probably heresy to say it, but I think in the pecking order, he's probably above David Silva now. I think he's been that good.
Phil Foden, Mahrez and De Bruyne. Paul, your top 3.
I'm going to slightly jumble those 3 around. I think those 3 are the best performers for me. But I'd go De Bruyne first, then Mahrez, and then Foden. I think De Bruyne now is on another level to any other player in that City team, which is not easy to do, is it? You look at the number of assists he's got for the season. I think it's 16. I think the record is Thierry Henry's with 20, and you wouldn't be surprised if he beat that in the next couple of matches. He's looking so good. I think it's 3 in 4 games, 3 goals in 4 games. He's stepped up to take those penalties when City had such a big problem with that before. But Foden again, as David said, has been fantastic. I think we've seen him go up a level recently. He's no longer just like coming on for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and having just letting, being involved in the game. Now he's dominating games. He's winning games. He's winning the Man of the Match awards. Like he did in the League Cup final, like he did against Burnley. He's really taking hold of the game and getting assists and goals. And coming to Mahrez, I just think if Foden hadn't played so well that game against Burnley, Mahrez would have got Man of the Match, because that goal he scored, I think it was his first goal, where he just he cushioned Fernandinho's 50-yard pass, and it was right in front of us in the press box, and I literally went like, "Oh my god, that was amazing!" I was just like, right, and then he just went and topped it off by turning Charlie Taylor inside out twice and scoring. So that was very impressive, and he's chipped in. He scored a penalty, obviously, in that match as well, which was, I think, important for him after his penalty miss against Liverpool last season. So he's played very well as well. So I'd go with those three for my top three.
Adam, your top three.
I can't argue with the top three, but just the order. I'm sticking Foden at the top there, local lad, KDB second, and then Mahrez has had such an influence since we came back. I think, just going back to Phil, he's going to have benefited so much from the delay in the season, in that, was he in Gareth Southgate's thinking for the England setup, but now Euro 2020 has been postponed a year. He's going to have another year at this level now, and I think he could be a shoo-in to be a starter at the next tournament, not necessarily just a name on the plane. His goal output since he's returned, he scored 3 goals in his last 23 games before the restart. He's matched that tally already in the appearances since the restart. So I just think he has benefited so much from this timing of this. I'm always looking for positives because it's such a torrid time right now. And so that's why he just elevates himself just above KDB. KDB, we've come to expect it week in, week out now. He is our talisman. He is our match winner. But Phil Foden comes on and influences games now, or starts games and influences them, scoring match-winning goals, assisting match-winning goals, whereas previously he might have just came on to try and fit into the team and play a bit of a bit part. But now he's one of our real deals. And like David says, maybe a key starter to overlap His Holiness David Silva.
Player who featured in all of your top threes, and someone we've talked about a lot this season, Kevin De Bruyne. Is it possible, do you think, that Kevin will get the Player of the Year this year? I think it's fair to say City have never really seemed to feature in the individual accolades. It's something that's been discussed a lot. Could Kevin get it this year? David, we'll start with yourself.
He absolutely deserves it. I don't think, as good as Liverpool have been, I don't think they've had a standout performer as good as De Bruyne has been. Whether he'll get it or not, I don't know. I can see it headed towards Anfield for reasons, that have long been discussed. I suspect. I've always had a theory with City's relationship with individual player awards, and that's they've always been such a good team that I don't think that individual performers have stood out in the way that they have done at other clubs. Maybe that have where they've had one player that has dragged the team, because some weeks for City it's been Sterling, some weeks it's been Silva, some weeks it's been De Bruyne. There's been somebody stand out in each game like that. But then you look at the performances this season. De Bruyne has taken it to a whole new level once again. And I don't really think there is anybody else in the league who is more deserving of it than he is. Whether or not he'll get it, I think we just have to kind of wait and see. My hunch is that it's probably going to go somewhere else, and I think that's a real shame for him as well.
Adam, I think it's interesting at this stage to point out that the last 4 times City have won the Premier League, as we say, no City player has received the Player of the Year award. Including that year in 17-18 when KDB was again fantastic. Salah now, got the award, and fair play to him. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is Liverpool have won the league, and perhaps maybe Kevin could still win the Player of the Year.
Yeah, we should get the second place team usually gets the best player, so we'll take that. Listen, I'm still not over Sergio getting overlooked in 2011, so 11-12 season, so I'm literally the worst.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I'm the worst person to ask about that.
You hold a grudge, don't you, Adam?
Almost 10 years on.
I know. I should really let it go. I know we've won. I'm sure even Sergio doesn't care about it. I don't think he ever did care about it. I just think surely it's our time. I buy into all the conspiracies. I buy into all the agenda. It'll be typical City that this will be the year that the trend switches and someone in the winning team gets that award as well.
Paul, final thought from you?
Well, it is interesting that, they said they don't get much recognition, the City players. I did a feature on David Silva recently, and I was looking through all the accolades that he's got, and he's looking at the Premier League Player of the Year, Player of the Month awards, and the only time that he's won the Player of the Month award was in September 2011, which for someone who has consistently performed very well in the Premier League, that was a surprise. So I mean, that kind of backs up the theory that City don't get the players don't get the recognition that they deserve. But I would pick De Bruyne for Player of the Year, just because Liverpool have been outstanding as a team in just winning. You look at so many of their games this season, it's won by 1 goal, 2 goal. Like City have scored 5, I think it's 5 times this season, put 8 past Watford, and generally being more devastating. But in terms of individual performances, I would put De Bruyne as ahead of any Liverpool player.
Really interesting, Paul. And just quickly on that David Silva note, do you think, when David does move on to pastures new, that's something that will really be looked back on? Yeah,
I think you don't really know. I mean, you take it as a given that he's going to play well, and that's probably why he's not deserved this recognition. He's not got this recognition that he deserves. I think when he came on, certainly in sort of post the half an hour, that second half, particularly against Tottenham, when he started putting his stamp on the game, he was very good then. And when he came on against Chelsea, he was very good as well. So I just think he's a player that you just automatically expect, excellence from. So when he does go, City will miss it. But this is Foden's golden chance, as Pep said.
Absolutely. The circle of life and all that. Listen, that's been absolutely brilliant from all three of you. Really interesting insights. But before I let you all go, I will, if you don't mind, ask for a prediction for the Liverpool game. And David, we'll start with you.
I hate games that are really tight, and I think this one's going to be a really tight ding-dong battle. I'm going to say City will edge it, and I think I can see it being like the time they played at home. Was it last season in the January? City needed to win, and Liverpool were quite, quite offensive in that game, and City had to be really tight and and grind out the win. I'm going to say another 2-1, but I really wouldn't be surprised if there were plenty of goals in this.
Adam, would you agree?
Yeah, I think we'll edge it. I'm going to go for 1-0. I think Liverpool might, and they'll be allowed to be on the party bus a bit longer. So hopefully we'll take our Champions League qualification more seriously and our need to get into that for next season. So I think we'll have more at stake, and I think we'll go for a 1-0.
And Paul?
I think it'll be tight as well. I'd probably go 1-0 or 2-1 City. Two of the two best goalkeepers in the division on the pitch as well. So that's an important factor to take into account. But like I said earlier, I just think Liverpool, maybe not at the game for a few days, still suffering a bit of a hangover possibly from the wild celebrations that we saw Jurgen Klopp embarking on the other day. So maybe that'll affect them a little bit, but I just fancy City to edge it 2-1.
Brilliant. And as Adam says, to have a game like this ahead of such crucial Champions League games, albeit the end of the party bus tour, still a good test to have, in preparation for those games. Yeah,
I just think it's an elite level team that they're playing against. They are, European champions, aren't they? So they are on a par with, they're up there with Real Madrid. So not only psychologically for next season will it be important for City to win, but it'll be important for into the Champions League matches to like I say, put down a marker, get a bit of confidence back, because they will be hurting after seeing those celebrations last week, definitely.
we're all expecting a close game then, but a tight game with City just edging it. Listen, thank you, all three of you, for joining us this week. It's been absolutely great to have you, and thank you for your company and for all your thoughts. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us for this latest City chat. Thanks also to Paul, to David, and to Adam for their insights. And we will, of course, be back next week with more. But until then, you can, of course, join our live pre-match show, We're Not Really Here, ahead of the Liverpool game on Thursday. We'll see you soon.